We've picked up a small forward and another key position player. Let's review the mid-season draft.
Now Magic Door. He's got the runner inside Magic. He tried to shimmy and the sidestep. Yes, the 15. How good is that?
Welcome back to Further North, everybody. Post-draft debrief right now. It's not as big as the off-season draft, we know, but the mid-season draft did happen on Wednesday night, and we've picked up two players with our two picks. We've picked up Zac Banch and Cooper Trambath. I'm not exactly sure how to say it yet, but I'm sure we'll learn that. We've got Joel back. He's the mind. He's the brain. He's the boffin when it comes to draft stuff. More than I am. I'm more of a vibes and an eye test guy, but you've got a little bit more knowledge than me, mate. So welcome back, and hopefully you're excited to talk about some of the prospects, I guess you can call them, that we picked up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's always good to be on, and particularly, post mid-season draft, the couple that we got, I'm quite happy, and that was probably close to what I expected. There was only, obviously a discussion at the time between whether we take Archer May, the key position forward, or we take Banch, which is obviously the small forward. So obviously we went with the small forward. So it's going to be interesting to talk a bit about them and see what we've got.
Going into the draft, what did you expect, or what did you sort of expect and want, I guess? Let's go down both of those paths. Like, is there a certain specific position that you wanted, or a type of player that you wanted to draft?
It's really hard because I it's going to sound, considering where we're at, I genuinely think we've got the talent in most of the positions. We're probably a bit light, I thought, on small forwards, which part of the reason I'm really happy with Banch. Key position forwards, I think there's space there as well for development, but we've played Will Dawson into that role now. So if he's playing in that role, we're a bit deeper than I would think. Then we're probably thinking. So I was pretty much, I think we got what I sort of expected. I sort of wouldn't mind a third tall key back sort of situation, which I think potentially Trambath could be. Just with Goda being so injury prone and not getting the games. Bergman's obviously a real huge risk to be delisted at the end of the year, I think. And Aiden Core is obviously aged and sort of in and out. So it's sort of like that extra position I'd really like. So hopefully we get to see some of that. Hopefully with Trambath, we'll see what he does. And obviously, hopefully Goda gets fit is my first one I'd like to get to. But, I think we've got a bit more depth across positions now.
Yeah, okay. Are you disappointed at all we didn't maybe go down the Archer May path? And is that the sort of the position you would want to sort of be at? Because I feel like a lot of us wanted the key forward, and I look at it and Archer May coming in would have been maybe almost like a Finbar level prospect, right? Someone who didn't get picked up, got picked up in an alternative way later, and we're already giving reps into Finbar. Like you said, Will Dawson is sort of getting trialled forward. We do have Darling there for the next couple of years with Larkey. So there are options there. Do you think maybe that's a position we should have gone down more than the small forward? I know you said the small forward is probably the one you wanted, but maybe why would you have picked small forward over key forward in the mid-season draft?
Honestly, my take on mid-season drafts, I think I haven't seen a successful key position forward come out of it. I'm going to be wrong one day about this, but in the meantime, I'm going to say don't draft a key position.
Hopefully it's Cooper Trambath.
Hopefully it's Cooper Trambath. I think he's got a bit more assets and a bit more, like, he's not quite the traditional 200 centimetre massive one that a lot are going for. I think it's a bit overrated, the 200 centimetre height as well. But I think I haven't seen a successful one at this level. I mean, I think Wilkie was mid-season and he's close to key position defender size. But like, other than that, I haven't really seen much come through. Caelan Dawson's probably one of the most successful ones to come through as a key position size player. And I think that sort of speaks volumes of what you're sort of getting at that level in a draft. So I'm happy to avoid May. I think I could be wrong. But I'll go with the evidence that there is at the moment. The evidence is we don't seem to see them come through that particular area. So yeah, I'm not too. That's why I'm happier to go for a Banch. Like, if we talk about him a little bit, obviously small forward. He's got the explosive pace. His delivery is really good. I probably view him a bit like a Dylan Moore type. Is the one I would compare him to. He can play higher up the ground. Really good engine. You're not going to see the numbers necessarily at VFL level, but Werribee being such a good VFL team and being such a good system team, he's going to come in and play a role and be team first. That's what you've seen with, the obvious ones through Sean Manor, Riley Bice, the obvious ones that have come out more recently. But I'm really happy with him as a pick. I think he's going to come in this year at some stage. Him and JK potentially are going to be a really good duo going into that forward line. And I think he adds something differently than the other ones. But it's going to be fascinating with the depth of that stock now, particularly.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think, maybe we'll chat about the list action in a second. Just some of the numbers for Banch is like 24 goals, 22 over his sort of year and a half playing for Werribee in the VFL. And you're looking at his numbers right through. And I wouldn't say it looks like, and this is just from the numbers I'm looking at, he doesn't look like a consistent goal scorer, but he has games where he's kicking 2, 3, 4, and then he'll have a few games where he's kicking 0, 2, 0, 1 and maybe not impacting as much. And that does depend maybe where on the ground. If he's playing that high half forward, they did mention that in one of the interviews that North put out afterwards, that he does play more of a high half forward sort of role. And maybe I definitely would feel like we need someone right deep in that forward pocket to be crumbing around the goal square and just causing havoc. But like you said, he's got that burst of pace, which is really, really good, and something Constanti, I don't know, I think he's shown it a little bit more recently. I think a lot of the fan base has maybe made up their mind on Constanti already, where I think we need to be a little bit more patient with him, remembering he's 20, a first-round pick. He's 20 years old, you know what I mean? Yeah. Not everyone can be Harry Sheezel, but, another young prospect to sort of push Constanti and a Robert Hansen Jr., you look at like Cooper Harvey there as well, and Geordie Payne. There's a group of small forwards now. I've been hearing some chat going around of this is the modern game. This is you look at Hawthorn with all the small forwards they've got on offer to them, and then you can sort of mix and match and all that sort of stuff. Do you think that's maybe what we're trying to do here, or do you think that Banch has maybe been drafted to offer something different than Constanti, Cooper Harvey, Robert Hansen Jr., those type players can offer?
I think he has been drafted to. I think he'll play early. I think we'll see him by the end of the year, and I think he could potentially solidify his position in the side by the end of the year. I think he's going to be. I really rate him highly in that aspect. He does offer something a bit different. Like the thing that he's been doing at Werribee more so is he's been playing higher up the ground. So it's not like a case where he's, like his numbers look not as high in the goal, but he's been playing higher up and they've had other people deeper. He's been sacrificing that aspect because he's got such a good engine and he can run for so long that he hasn't had to play that close to goal small forward. I'm fairly confident he'll be very capable of it, but I think you'll probably see him playing more of that Hansen Jr. role that Hansen was playing when he was in our side.
Pushing up to the wing sort of thing? Pushing
up to the wing sort of, and his kick is very good. His tackling is better, I would say, than a Hansen Jr.'s at the same time. So I'm very happy to get him in. Like, as I said, like particularly with the Werribee side, you see how good they are at system games, and that's why their players keep getting through is because they're team first. And I think you'll see that with Banch. I'm really happy to get him. May, which was the one that will really weighing up. As I said, key forwards at this. I just haven't seen a successful one, so I don't want to go down that pathway. And Banch, I'm very comfortable will play, and I think he'll make an impact. I imagine. Yeah, like 2 or 3 weeks, I imagine he could be playing in our best 22.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, imagine that. I mean, that would almost make him instantly our most successful mid-season draft pick if he can play within the year and sort of make an impact. And I think you're right. Like, I mean, Archer May's gone to Essendon, so hopefully he's rubbish.
Yeah.
And we never see him play for the Bombers. Less about Archer May, maybe more about the Bombers there. But, I think the smaller players, as we've seen through drafts, like midfielders can come on so quick. And I think a smaller player in the AFL can be physically ready more for maybe their positional size need, and that means they can impact a lot quicker. We see that with midfielders, and you look at even some of the small forwards that have been drafted. Nick Watson, obviously a perfect example, where they can impact, a lot quicker. So you're totally right, and I never know what to feel about this. Like I loved what Brent Eagle did last year for us. I think he filled a massive, massive hole. Yeah, I'm not saying he's the best player ever, but he filled a hole that was genuinely just wide open for someone to take. And I think he's a relatively successful mid-season draft pick. I still can't believe he hasn't played this year, but what he did, played nearly every game back half of the year, kicked a goal a game. And look, I've talked about this before, but hopefully Zac can come in and really hit the ground running because he can maybe be physically ready. He's 21 years old, so he's not 18 or anything like that. So he's got a little bit more size behind him. You watch some of the highlights that they put out, and even some of the things on like Werribee's YouTubes and stuff like that, he looks physically ready. He can really burst away from a contest, and some of the tackling ability that he did show looks pretty good. And even what he lacks in size, he'll make up for in effort, which a lot of players on our list maybe need to step up with. So, there was one highlight where he's basically dived on the ground to tackle, missed the tackle a bit, and then just like sprung off the ground Wardlaw style and just wrapped the bloke up. And that's the sort of stuff that you really want to see. So, do you really think he can play in the next few weeks?
Absolutely.
Maybe what gives you the confidence? Is that more of a Constanti thing, maybe not doing it for you at the moment, or what gives you the confidence that he can come in so quickly and do that?
Well, I do like Constanti, I'll have that be known. And I think I've really rated his role this year. I mean, he was the steak knives in the deal, and I think his forward pressure he's added. On top of now, the last few weeks he's been starting to get goals a bit more regularly. I think he's adding a lot to our side. I think him and Banch will play together. I think they'll play well together. They're slightly different styles. They're both aggressive tacklers. I'd say that Banch is a bit more to him, as in like his kick is ridiculous. He's got some really good penetration on his kick, and his accuracy. He'll set up goals at that high half forward. He'll be a bit more of that kind of role, which I don't think we've got a huge amount of as well. I'm fairly confident he'll play by the end of the year for us. I think that 20 to 22 spot on our list has really been even in flow. We've sort of put people like Dersmer into that. We've put, obviously Hards has come in and sort of gone from that to definitely in the well and truly the best. But Zach Fisher in that role, I prefer, I think he would have added more in like the last game than Fisher would have. So things like that. Like I just think he's going to add a bit more. I think he's going to add a different flavour. I think him and JK together, pressuring and tackling are going to be good, and he'll play higher up the field a bit more. They won't necessarily get in each other's way. I think he'll add something, and I think he'll play for us this year.
Okay.
He's got 6 months he's got a 6 month contract, so it's not the 18-month.
So Collingwood special from what I heard from that draft.
Yeah. So it'll be good to see how he goes. I'm fairly happy with him, and I think, we've got. So I think we've got a player there that will play pretty early, and I'm pretty happy with him. I was happier with him than May.
Okay, yeah, and highly likely I think he gets that extra 1 year extension as well. I mean, you're probably not drafting someone in the mid-season draft too, and I can't imagine he'll be so bad that he doesn't get. I mean, Jacob Edwards stayed on the list for nearly 3 years, I guess. So, look, if that can happen, there's clearly a big hope for Zac Banch. It's interesting. I was going to ask you as well. Do you think they'll both play together like a Constanti, or if Cooper Harvey gets a crack, or can we play those two small forwards down there? And I really hope we can. I mean, look at Hawthorn's forward line, or even Brisbane with some of theirs with Archie and Cameron down there, and it does feel like maybe the modern way of playing, and our forward line is quite tall, so hopefully maybe you end up taking one of those three key positions out and putting a small in, and I think it looks a bit more balanced, almost like our backline does with maybe the 2.5 key defender sort of thing we're trying in the last month. So, all right, let's go to Cooper. A little bit more interesting with this one, a little bit not out of nowhere, but definitely not maybe pulling up trees in VFL, because he's only got one VFL game for North Melbourne for us, and he played one game against Brisbane, kicked 3 goals, which I look at it in two different ways. I look at it in one where I'm like, he's not playing VFL more consistently. And maybe that's he did mention, I listened to his SEN interview, and he did mention that North's list has been fairly healthy in those positions this year. So there's not much opportunity, I guess, to get called up to the VFL from Blackburn, I believe he was playing at. So my local area around this place as well. So, is that a good thing that he came in, had one game and looked really good? Or is that a thing where we're like, this is a shot in the dark sort of prospect because he wasn't maybe at VFL level already? And look, the highlights I saw of him from that one VFL game, I mean, he looked right at home, 193 centimetres. So like you said before, not your 200 centimetre clunking key forward, but, a very athletic type player who, almost like we say with Dersmer, what we want Dersmer to be, can jump at the football and leap above everybody. And 3 goals in his first VFL game, says he can kick as well. What's your sort of scouting report on him from what you know? Because there's not as much out there about him.
That's interesting. We did get linked to him a fair bit by the end. He was one that, he played, played as an overager in the Coates League last year. I think he was Eastern Rangers, if I'm not mistaken. He was fairly good in that position. He was playing off the half-back line, likened to Connor Iden at the stage. I still think that's not a terrible one, and that's the position I wouldn't mind him playing for us. During the whole preseason this year and training, he's been with us in the BFL program, and he's been he played a couple of the sim games with us and been doing sim games in the VFL with us. So he's definitely there and around. The club knows him well. So this isn't like it could appear to the outsider as if we've sort of thrown a bit of a, random dart here, but like he is someone that our recruiting team knows well and has seen and followed very closely. So that is worth a note. In terms of him in the VFL side, you are fairly right. The two senior spots that are not AFL players for our VFL side are what was it? It was Tomlinson at the moment is obviously the key back position. Mm-hmm. And who's the other guy?
It was the guy who has the same last name as other people. That's the one. Yeah, Tarrant, yeah.
And he's been very, very good as well. So those two are like sort of that. And then otherwise we're filling it out with all of our AFL listed players. So
yeah, Tickles and Dawsons and things. Yeah,
CCJ got his first game back on the weekend as well. So we've got they're very filled out in that. So, but when he did get his one chance in that, he was absolutely aced it. When he was playing for Blackburn, there was a particular game where he versed one of our old favourites here, Josh Walker.
Yes.
And he absolutely towed him. He was best on field and had an absolute monster game. So Josh Walker, even though he's obviously senior and, I think when he played he was AFL standard, but obviously very, very low AFL standard.
Fringe AFL standard.
Fringe AFL standard. A young guy.
I mean, a huge guy though, physically should have bullied him, but I guess maybe young athleticism wins out.
And I think that's worth of note as well. So he's been absolutely, he's an absolute freak at that level. When he's come to VFL for that one game, he absolutely tore it apart. He didn't set a foot wrong. There was nothing that if he was wrong in some of his athleticism, his athletic profile. I think what I have here, he was an 88 centimetre vertical.
Wow.
Yeah, he's really, really good overhead, obviously. 193 centimetres is the height for him. So, but it's a interesting one. I don't mind him as a prospect, and obviously the club has a fair bit of an insight into him. It's, as I said, even though he's played the one game, they've got a really good insight into him. 6 months in a professional program, you might potentially see something happen there. And, if we get something out of him, we'd be absolutely stoked. But you're not losing a huge amount by putting him onto our list, I don't think.
Imagine how tall our VFL team is going to be. It is outrageous. We're rolling with 4 key defenders with Logue back there. Double Dawson's down, Tomlinson, Whitlock,
Goad.
and then Tickle, Goad,
CCJ back now.
CCJ's back, Trambath, and then Tarrant as well. Yeah. It's just outrageous, mate. It must be the biggest team of all time, surely.
We're watching because we watched. I think you watched some of it as well, the VFL game, and it was really interesting to watch. Harvey must be. He's absolutely knocking on the door.
If he doesn't get a game in the next 2 or 3 games,
he's going to be delisted. That's what it's going to be. It's one of the two. Either you get it.
You know what? Let's talk about this quickly because this was maybe my next point. If we'll wrap up Cooper there. I guess that's maybe really all we know about him, and maybe more of a long-term prospect, but looks very exciting. And just the sheer athleticism. It feels a little bit Zane Dersmery for me. I'm not saying maybe quite the athletic profile of him, but almost like a Zane Dersmer light, where he's slightly undersized, can sort of play key position. Maybe obviously Dersmer more forward, but has that leaping ability and athleticism, and is a decent shot at goal. So hopefully it comes through.
A bit stronger than a Dersmer, but Dersmer is obviously a bit more athletic around the field.
Yeah. So let's look at the list then and look at some of the small forwards. We've just chatted about Cooper Harvey a little bit, but does this say anything maybe of lack of trust of any of maybe even the younger guys? Like Geordie Payne got an emergency spot in one of the games this year. I think that was the Brisbane game down in Tassie, and we didn't play him. Cooper Harvey hasn't even been an emergency this year, but he's kicking bags of goals every single week. And Robert Hansen he's had a couple of emergency spots too, but hasn't felt like he's kicking the door down to the VFL too. Yeah. Those 3 guys on top of Constanti, and even Fisher's dabbling up there and that sort of stuff. What does this say for those guys maybe in the VFL that we've gone out and got another small forward? Does it suggest to you, just your personal opinion, that they maybe don't see Cooper Harvey as the guy, or maybe Geordie Payne isn't quite where they want, or is it just more options the better? And does he offer slightly something different than those guys?
Well, the ones who come out of contract at the end of the year, obviously, JK does. I believe JK does at least.
He triggered an option.
Makes sense. Yeah. He's been good enough. Cooper Harvey, Payne, and obviously Banch now come out of contract at the end of the year, so you're going to have a choice. Geordie Payne seems very limited is the way I'd describe him at the moment. Like, he's extremely good tackler and aggressive, and they only tend to play him close into goal. Yeah, but, like, is he better in that position than JK? That's the question mark that you're probably asking this time. And does he offer anything differently than JK? And I don't think the answer is yes to either of those. The one that really surprised me and is worth noting is Hansen got a contract extension. So he's signed on for another year, which, looking back at now when we've signed another one as well, sort of like, it's an interesting one to look at. So Cooper, I don't know what more he has to do to really get a game, because he's been kicking regular bags, and he's not like, like the game we absolutely belted the Collingwood VFL side. Cooper was kicking the goals when the whips were cracking at the start as well.
Windy day, I believe, as well, down there. He's not just kicking them in the goal square and stuff. He's kicking them from the boundary line. He's kicking them on the run. He's really good lead-up mark. I think 3 of his goals, I think at least, were lead-up marks as well. So, geez, I don't know. Regardless of if they've made their mind up on him or not, which I guess us fans are starting to feel like maybe they have, he can't do anything more to be able to get a game. Do you think he's going to get a game? Do you think they'll give? Does your gut tell you that he'll get a game?
My gut says no, and I don't think that's necessarily.
I don't know why.
Yeah, I agree. My gut says no. I'm assuming there's personality things as my gut feel, because he's played like. I said it like, he kicked 5 goals in the VFL, and I think last few weeks he's been kicking 3s and 2s.
A couple of bags of 3, yeah.
Yeah, he's doing everything possible. Like, when you're playing people like, and I think not a knock against him, in a slightly different role again, is like a Hansen Jr. ahead of him. Like, when you bring Dersner straight back into the side, and, Cooper's, for me, like, as a forward threat, offering a lot more. It's a bit of a bizarre one to me. Finbar, you've got a very different skill set, so you can't really put him into that same category. But
I think someone said that Cooper's top 3 in your small forwards for goals in the VFL for the year. He'd have to be. It
would have to be the way he's been playing. He's been very, very good. That's why I said it's a bit of a surprise to me that he hasn't played. Like, if he hasn't played if he hasn't played a game by the end of the year, he's delisted. There's no doubt. And which is like, I think he's doing everything possible. Like, he was very lucky to get the contract extension, I thought. But
we all sort of felt like the name maybe got him that contract extension, but you can't quit. Like, and even if that is true, right? Because we all heard things about, attitude problems or commitment things, and that sort of maybe off field, just how he is day to day, or loves a party, loves a drink, or something like that. Things I've heard, and I'm not confirming any of that. This is all just hearsay. But even if all that is true, what he's doing at VFL level is more than enough to show that either he's turned it around and he's committed, or he's got that much talent that if he can turn it around and be committed, he's going to be a great small forward in the AFL. So, it's really interesting. It'd be interesting to see who gets a game first. If it's going to be Banch, if you think he's going to play, or Cooper Harvey, who will get a game at the small forward first. And I guess it depends if the 3 talls work as well, because you can't drop Zerha, you can't drop Constant. I don't think you can drop Constanti.
No, I don't think you can either.
Like, I listen to some other podcasts and things like that. People are pretty flat on Constanti, but I think that's more of an emotional reaction more than like watching the game. Yeah, you look at the stats and whatnot, and he's not getting 10 touches a game. He sometimes gets 7 and kicks 1, but 5 tackles or 7 tackles against Collingwood, I think it was. And you watch him play, and just his effort, the 1%ers he does around the contest, put pressure on, and that's the difference between a kick to someone's chest down the wing out of our 50 or a bomb down the line that we can intercept. And look, is he doing enough for when we want to improve? Maybe not. Maybe you want him to improve while the team improves, but where we're at, I think he's doing enough. Let's swivel over to the key positions then. Do you see Trambath as someone who's going to play more forward or defence for us? What do you think they've drafted him as? Knowing North, they'd probably have no idea, and they're going to play him in every position.
We love the versatility at the club at the moment. It seems
5 key defenders down there, one game. Wow, that could be fun.
I don't mind. I personally don't mind the idea of him playing as that halfback, like kind of Iden role where you're sort of chopping off and doing those marks. That being said, I think they've probably drafted him as a forward, but I think the versatility is probably what you take from him. Because I'm not sure, like, the roles that you sort of see is like, like Goda is the one that jumps to mind immediately, just because.
You reckon they're a decent comparison for player? Because I feel like everyone's gut feel of mine definitely was he's more of a slightly undersized key position type player, maybe his athleticism, but what sort of attributes do you think he can play that sort of halfback maybe a semi-distributing sort of role like a Goda, or you reckon he's maybe slightly more towards the Goda size, but plays maybe undersized?
I think he can go with the bigger guys a bit better than Goda has the Goda beats him with the jump and the athleticism, probably, and he is strong, good positioning. His kick is better, because Goda's a very good distributor of the ball. Trambath, I would imagine, would be sort of like a smothering defender type because of his athleticism. He can jump up and he can really hit packs hard. I think he can beat a lot of those guys in one-on-one, and even on the undersized ones, when he's undersized, he'll still be able to compete very strongly with the ones in the air. You got to remember, your key forwards, like your Kurnows and that, they're like the 193, 194 centimetres. They're undersized. Your caddies at Essendon are the similar size. I think as the 200 centimetre for me is a little bit overrated, because I think we just underrate the 195 centimetre players.
You wouldn't even know Kurno's not 200
exactly.
centimeters with the way he plays as well. And I guess it's it's a physical size, like almost girth thing, right?
Yeah.
Where he's got the show, he's broad, he's got muscles, he's physically ready to compete at that level, and his athleticism and just IQ from the game will make him almost be like a 200 centimeter. I mean, look, I don't disagree with you, but I think there's still a place for that 200 centimeter.
Oh, there is, absolutely.
Key position
absolutely.
guy. And I'm not obviously not saying that's not what you meant, but almost your Colonel Mackay partnership. Mackay's up and down, but you know what I mean? In theoretically, that should be the ultimate partnership. You've got the athletic, slightly undersized guy that can play different roles, and you've got the guy who, if you need to dump it long, he's going to do the work and take the mark. And obviously, we don't have that in Nick Larkey. Nick Larkey's going to be there, and he's not sort of either a Kerno or a Mackay type player. He's sort of his own style player, and it's like, what sort of player would you, and here's a question for you, and I don't even know the answer to this too. What sort of player would you like to put next to Larkey ideally? Is it like what a Trambath could offer if he did go forward, where it is that not saying he's going to be Charlie Curto, but like a Curto-esque, slightly undersized, athletic guy who can get physically up to the standard? Or would you rather put a Harry Mackay-esque, what maybe Will Dawson or a Whitlock or someone down there could be? Which type of player do you think would be more suited to Larky's game?
I really like the idea of a Will Dawson style. I want someone who is strong, massive body, going to be a real physical intimidation. Because, what I really hope for Will Dawson moving forward, and he's got a fair bit of the mongrel in him lately. If you've watched his VFL games, he really is hitting out hard.
He's big, mate. He looks big.
He's a very big unit. He's put a lot of muscle on. I'd love to see him become a Tilthorpe-style player. That's who I'd like to see him become, because if he's got that massive frame, that big strength, he's going to hit packs. A player like Larky doesn't do that. He doesn't fly for marks. I think he's slightly added to his bow a bit more contested marks.
I agree.
Yeah. But it's still not his strength. His strength is he reads the play well, he leads up well, he takes marks, and he kicks accurately.
Even out the back, he's very good too. Yeah,
Finbar, I think, adds that chaos when the ball comes up high and Finbar's near him. Finbar's opponent needs to know where he is immediately, because if he doesn't, Finbar's going to fly at the contest, and he's a very decent chance to take a mark. I mean, we saw that, that first quarter where he nearly flew and took two amazing hangers against Collingwood. That's the kind of skill that he brings up. Trambath, I think, could be very similar to that. He could fly at those ones, take those good marks, and do some good strong body work. Better kick, but
she's not a high bar, mate.
Not a high bar. It's a fin bar.
It's a fin bar. Oh no! God. Oh God! Well, you've started that now.
No.
If that starts coming up in the comment sections down below, if a North bar is a fin bar, that's your fault, mate.
Oh, okay, blame it. But yeah, that kind of player I like. I think he could add that sort of different element as well. My hope is that a Will Dawson becomes the Tilthorpe style, and I think he would greatly complement Larky, where you've got to worry about Larky and lead, and Larky's opponent's always worried about getting, hit in the back of the head by a jumping, Dawson. Yeah. Or a Finbar.
I mean, that sounds, maybe a Finbar. I mean, Finbar's got more facial hair, so that would make him more like a Tilthorpe kind of guy. I sort of maybe think about Will Dawson almost like a Shannon Neal as well. He's quite big. Bad. And but I think more what I mean by that is he's going to take time to come on, and I would love to see Will Dawson get games before the end of the year, especially in the forward line, because like we've said, I don't know if he's wearing his shorts are still from what they were last year. He needs to get a bigger size shorts and a Guernsey, because he is big. He is huge, mate. I'd love to be able to meet him in real life and just see the sheer size of this 18-year-old still, which is ridiculous. But, you know, Shannon Neal had to wait so long for his opportunity, and look, Geelong are at a completely different level than Hawkins. And, you know, I'm not saying that hopefully Will Dawson doesn't take that long, but I do think because we've got to remember, he's 18 years old. He's still growing into his body, mate, late to football. Look, he isn't tearing it up in the forward line. He had that one game against the Bombers where he looked really, really good. And other than that, he's presenting really well, but he's maybe not getting the opportunity. So I wouldn't be locking him into a forward. I wouldn't be locking him into a back, but I think we need to see something from him sooner rather than later. And like I said to you, you know, we need to have Whitlock and Will Dawson in this team in the next 2 to 3 years at each end of the ground, being the key position players of the future. But look, this isn't a Will Dawson podcast. This is a Cooper Trambath and a Zac Banch podcast. I know you like to slip in a bit of Will Dawson chat, mate. You're a fiend for it. But look, we might wrap it up there so we don't go too long, but really excited for Zac Banch. Hopefully you're right and he does get an opportunity. It makes me more excited to watch VFL football to see what these guys can do. And, you know, Cooper as well, really exciting to see where he plays in the VFL when he starts getting some more games in there. And will he knock down the door? Because as much as we like Finbar, he isn't, you know, he's not solidifying his spot, and I think that spot is open to rotation if there is a couple of bad games in a row. So there's no opportunity for him. I hope Will Dawson gets that first, or a Whitlock, but hey, or a Teakle, because I do like my Bryn Teakle. But you know what I mean? He's not walking into a club that's got key position players, and he's like, how am I going to be? You know, I don't know if Essendon ended up drafting a ruckman, but if you were the ruckman who went to Essendon in the mid-season draft, you would just be like, I got 6 months of game time, then I'm out of here because I'm not playing ever again.
Oh, they did get a ruckman, which they'll play, like, because Goldie...
I mean, they'll play him until they get their other ruckman back, then he'll never play. So anyway, it is what it is. But look, welcome to those two guys. Really excited. And hopefully we can see some incredible highlights from them. But Joel, we will wrap it up here. Thank you for coming on and sharing your knowledge and insight. And thank you for the Will Dawson chat. You always know I like to drop in some Will Dawson chat. So hopefully he can become a superstar. And look, if Cooper Trambath doesn't get a game, I hope it's because Will Dawson is kicking 5 a week in the ones.
Well, if he gets up that high, I'd be super happy for that. So, but I mean, I don't think he'll play games this year, but I'm very happy to see him on our list. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Easy, mate. Well, look, you know it. We'll hear from you soon. Thank you for jumping on again.
Mate, beautiful. Thanks for having me again, Josh.